Hello, Design for Literacy students. This is Marcos, and this is our week 1 briefing following our first day of class. And I just wanted to make this video in order to go over what our first assignment's going to be so that you're able to access this and watch it as needed in order to be sure that you're set and understanding what we're doing for the first presentation, which is on week 2 next Thursday. So I'm going to go through basically what I've gone through in class, parts of it. Just to remind you, we're going to be working on utilizing Canvas, like all the other classes you have at Parsons. And if you go on there, you'll find overview of the class as well as the syllabus, which outlines the whole plan for the class and the schedule and the assignments that are upcoming. And you can pretty much count on following that pretty much to a T unless something happens or if we get slowed down by something. But the main thing is that you can access the assignments there. Under the assignments link is shown here. Right now we have our first upcoming assignment, Baby Board Book Part 1, the research concept presentation, which I'll go over in a second here. But I also have an undated assignment, which is basically just a overview of DIRT in general, in case you wanted to go over and read that and understand the brand better. If any of you are watching who missed the first class or joined the class late, that might be a good idea for you to check that out and make sure you got a good understanding of what our collaborative partner DIRT is about and how you can participate in the best way possible. This is the same slide. Okay, so in the assignment, no, it wasn't the same slide. This is showing us where the research concept, yes, and we click on here. And in this assignment, this is actually this is gonna be the longest assignment because basically I have a little bit of an overview on DIRT and a little history about the little number and letter book and how we developed that, as well as then specifics on this assignment, which I'll go over with you now. When you're finished with your assignment, instead of uploading it to Canvas, I'd like to have you each week add your presentations to the class Google Drive, which I've shared with everybody. Anybody new, I'll make sure to share it with you as well. And if I don't, let me know. Part 1 is going to be next week's deck that you'll place in this folder here. And it's good for turning in, but it's also important for having there so that when we present in class, that it's ready to click on when it's your turn. Also, just a reminder that we are using Slack as one of our communication tools, and as well as email. I'll be sending out messages through email and through Slack consistently. So sign up if you haven't yet. Okay, so as we talked about, our first assignment is going to be to delve into this project of creating what I'm calling a baby board book. And when I say board, I mean like the thick board of the cover and page stock. And basically, as some of you saw in class, it's a nice hefty book that's 5 5/8 by 5 5/8, and it's 16 pages. And it's meant to be durable and kind of it's not bendable. It's like a sturdy book that's friendly to young infant or toddler's hands, but not something that is easily destroyed and kind of that sort of, they can chew on it or throw it or whatever, and it's going to hold up. And it also in an interesting way makes it more of an object, like a 3D object. It can stand up, fall over, a lot less or a lot more of an object than what a typical book, which is of course an object as well. But it's kind of cool to see them, that they're little interactive pieces that are in this kind of this thing that you can hold in your hand and do things with. So our goal for this first project is to create a baby book that's going to provide a nurturing, exciting, and loving experience for a young infant or toddler or even newborn, and will provide a caregiver like a mother or a father, grandparents, aunt or uncle, brother, sister, babysitter, friend, to be able to be inspired to participate in the activity of reading together. and sharing in the experience of the book. And when reading together, having the ability to express verbally and physically with the book. So you're able to read aloud or talk aloud, you're able to point, move around. And it gives us an opportunity, because our books, for the most part, will be interactively experienced, that there's going to be another element that we can take advantage of. At the same time, with that being said, the books can also be something that kids will just grab and enjoy looking through, or even reading when they're older, or even just, grabbing and biting it and having a good time with the physicalness of it. And as we talked about in class, this early childhood reading experience is kind of a big key in what DIRT is advocating for in terms of its literacy mission. The statistics in what happens when or when you do not read to a child are very stark, and the importance of giving kids exposure, literally physically, to a book or to books, or to this experience of being read to, or even having the books in their hands. And it is a big important factor in cognitive development for young kids, and helping them in beginning to get the right connections made to become the best learners possible. And there is kind of this duty of being able to have kids ready to go to school. I think traditionally, at least I thought of it this way, that when you go to kindergarten, that's the first day of school, and that's when you start learning, and that's by far not true. And part of DIRT's mission is to inspire families to have these reading habits, and to have these books be books that'll help engage them. And then in terms of the brand, also kind of trying to create a little bit of a different niche for baby books that sort of in the spirit of DIRT is a little more, I don't know, edgy, maybe it feels a little subversive, kind of like clever, also thoughtful and deep, and something that kind of points towards the things that typical baby products are like, but also points to an awareness of the human condition, or an awareness of kind of a bigger picture idea of what life is about and why we're here, asking the big questions, and wanting to provide a path for like a fulfilling life through reading, and through like the experiences we have as humans together. So with this first project, it's going to be about learning to do the kind of research needed and understanding to begin to give yourself an idea of what DIRT's about, and also what this product line is about, and how you can create a concept in this first project that will put you on the path for creating a successful book. And with this first project, it's going to be about really trying to think about some kind of unique insight that leads you to an idea that will bring you a way to develop and design this book. And with this book, the Yummies, which I find to be really, really kind of great, and this is super simple, it's almost not even an idea, but it is. I mean, it's about kind of introducing kids to their vegetables. Some maybe not the funnest in the world, but they kind of give them this sort of family name, the Yummies, and then just giving them this kind of like wacky, sort of a little bit irreverent personality, and not that kind of like soulless, dopey kind of illustration style that you might get in some typical kids design or illustration style. And so what my sort of insight on this is that you can take a simple thing like key vegetables and zany characters and bring those two ideas together. And then when it comes to like, what's the story here? The story is simply a single word for each character, and, sort of naming them as these things, but also just identifying what these fruits or these vegetables are about, and some fruits, of course. So this is a really good example of just sort of the simplest, purest kind of book that you can develop. I'll be showing you some more examples of the kinds of books that we've done in the past to provide you inspiration. And as I talked about in class, to allow you to be influenced by something you see, and then find that sort of next level of idea, or that adjacent kind of thinking that you can then kind of create your own thing and not be afraid to be directly inspired or influenced by things that are out there, even if they're a fellow book from another dirt designer. But before we get into that, those other examples, I just wanted to kind of talk again about this idea of like, what are some of the things that we should know about in terms of the growing and learning processes in this very unique audience of being designing for babies, designing for families. And I want to skip ahead to this slide here just to kind of define some terms here, which are definitions of this younger age toddler, which is from 1 to 4. But before that, basically the one category that is relevant is that we'll learn about here in a minute is the newborn, who is just 0 to 2 months. And one might think like, well, they're too young they can't hold a book, or they can't even really see that well, and they can't understand ideas or understand a story. And we'll talk about why that doesn't matter, or that does matter, but it's not relevant in terms of what is important about the reading together experience and the role a book plays. And then the infant becomes a little more, well, there's a big change from 2 months to an infant, and it's about now beginning to look at the world and see things and respond, and beginning to not only learn to see, but learn to make noises. And eventually by the end of year 1, probably be saying your first words and even beginning to talk. And so these stages of early childhood, as you can see, and as we all know, it's a dynamic thing, and it's not a static moment. And there's a pretty big difference between one end of this scale to the other. So what that means is that your book has the potential to serve various levels of this of audience, because they're ever changing, and they're more dramatically changing than any other time in a human's life. And so that kind of thinking needs to go in terms of like, what opportunity is there? Is that an opportunity to say, I'm going to really focus in on one of these levels of the experience of being a young person, and I'm going to stick to like 1-month-old babies, and that's going to be my target. And that's a great thing. But you can also see it the opposite way, which is, because this is so ever changing, I'm going to have opportunities to be able to mix a lot of different kinds of ways of thinking or approaches in my design or my concept that can adjust to the changes in the understanding that these ages offer. And even more, which we talked about yesterday, is this idea that there's another audience member here that typically isn't considered, which is the parent, the caregiver, the person who's pulling out the book and reading together. And what's key about that insight is that if we think about what Dirt can offer in a unique way, we can offer something that might connect better, interestingly, or inspire grown-ups with different interests to want to go through a book that they find charming, or they find interesting, or they find even tolerable for that matter, and is a little different than typical little kid books, which only think about the little kid and their understanding, particularly when you think about this newborn age where they're 0 to 2 and they're not understanding. What matters is that they're having a loving connection with the person, and the person is talking to them. They could be reading a book on how to fix a car for all they care. So not that you couldn't have a book on how to fix a car, but that idea could work if you're targeting the younger age, and you're also targeting the person who's doing the reading, and you're wanting them to be able to be into the book you're reading. So building babies' brains with books, but basically that means it's like thinking about where it is that different individuals are in their early childhood development. Babies' bodies and minds grow significantly over the early childhood years. So you usually think about when there's a baby growing up, you think about all the milestones in terms of their physical changes, their ability to grab something, their sitting up, the way they move their head. And those are very important milestones. But what's going on inside in terms of cognitive development is also important. In fact, in the first years, babies' brains grow more rapidly than their bodies do. So the rate of learning and changing is faster within the body of an infant than it is outside. And as we know, the outside is quite impressive and quite quick. So a lot's going on the inside. So right from birth, babies should be read to on a daily basis. And let's go to the beginning of that sentence, right from birth. And that is something that I don't think people, parents, families, they may not really specifically understand that, because I think it is natural just to assume that you got to have a certain level of understanding before you can really get a benefit from reading a book or having a book read to you. And this is not true. It's this idea of like 50 minutes per day, every day from day one, is a message that I think could really use some touting, because I don't think it's something that people see as vital or urgent. And so understanding that in terms of these baby board books, and thinking about a concept that might want to inspire parents or caregivers to want to pull out this book and enjoy it with their kid. Okay, so some other things to know about early childhood and the beginning reading experience is that from birth, from 0 to 12 months, it's all about three things: sounds, words, and feelings. And these are basic core parts of human communication and human expression, and something that is easy to zero in on in terms of like either responding to the kinds of sounds, feelings, or attempt of words that a 0 to 12-month-old might have, or by instigating or enrolling the reader to utilize their voice and their expressions and their ability to mimic feelings of different sorts by cueing them in your book and getting them to make sounds or to show feelings, and to support that with the kind of illustrations or words that you have in your book. And then vision, the way we see, or the way kids seeing is also a learning process. I don't think too many of us think about that as a learned skill, but it is something that every person has to do as they get older, from being a newborn within the first weeks and months to be able, and even up to age 3, according to this line here, between birth and age 3, many of babies' vision skills will develop. So it's something that's ongoing up to even the 3rd year, and kind of realizing that there's limitations. And the younger they are, the less skilled they are at seeing. During the first 4 months of life, your baby should begin to follow moving objects with their eyes and reach for things. So at that sort of midterm of the infant stage, being interested in what's going on and wanting to follow along or even respond to what they see is something that's interesting to them, and also a good exercise for them to be doing. So if you think about that as maybe a insight for how your book might be put together, and you're encouraging movement of your book, or you're encouraging some way that they're grabbing, that could be an interesting way to have either as a feature of a book or as an entire theme of your book. So the newborn, the earliest of newborns, the first month, beginning to read aloud to a newborn right after birth begins. Birth brings the benefit of establishing a nurturing family routine and helping a baby feel safe and loved. And that is like actually a really big part of everything I think we're doing. I don't see the efforts of experiencing a book together, reading together, as this kind of academic endeavor. I mean, of course, the goal is eventually to learn to read and write and all those things we have to do as adults, or even as older kids. But it's about the loving experience and the nurturing and affection that a baby will feel, and the bond they'll create with their family. That is key, and that the book is a way to bring that connection together. And that is, to me, like the highest calling, and something so important for each human to have the opportunity to get in the best way possible. And if we can make a book that'll help make that even better, then we're doing something pretty special. And then outside of that big, important, loving experience, is also beginning a routine that will help a baby be ready for school, for kindergarten, but also a routine that will help them have a better life and give them this sense of sort of direction, or this approach in life where they know there's certain things they do that they enjoy, that pay off, and that make them better. And reading every day is something that will improve everyone's life. So getting a love for that, if we can do that, then we're doing also something pretty special. And then the newborn, the 1 to 2 months, the older newborn, babies at 1 to 2 months love to see faces and make emotional connections with people. So they begin to understand what's going on with the face and how the communication happens there and how relationship begins. they listen and they feel. So that the earlier ages, it's going to be about instigating some kind of vocal interaction through your book. And babies love books with real pictures and bold contrast. Everyone's heard this idea of like black and white stripes or bold graphics in a young book is important for kids at 1 to 2 months age. And then reading aloud should be slow and exaggerated. So this also is a cue towards how you might want to structure the way you bring text into your book, by having longer words or slower words, or some way where you're understanding that it's not about complete sentences that are telling a narrative, rather they're cueing an adult to say something in a long, slow, exaggerated way. And then as we go to infants, the first half of infantum, if I can make a word up, the 2 to 5 month period, babies begin to verbally respond. They start making noises. They start to communicate using cooing sounds. And by practicing their sounds while reading together, babies figure out which sounds are important to learn and talk. So making an experience that gives a baby a chance, or a 2 to 5 month old, a chance to speak back, to coo back, to make noises back. And at this time, teething begins. That could be as early as 2 months. And at this point, infants will enjoy holding, turning, and tasting and turning board books. So now we're getting to the point where babies are reaching for the book and wanting to interact with them directly. And then the second half of infant experience, the 5 to 12 month period, from 5 to 9 months, babies will regularly say the words like mama, dada, baba, and more. Babies are practicing consonants and use sounds to talk and help them talk. And from 9 to 12 months, babies will start to put their coo vowel sounds and babble consonant sounds together, to start to put those together to make, or to attempt to make, words. And then in terms of vocabulary, reading aloud together is important. Begin for a baby to begin to start to understand what the language that they're hearing means, and to begin to build a vocabulary. And books selected and reading together should go beyond favorite books, with selections made that provide new words and experiences. So you might want to focus on like a book of 100 words. Maybe that's too many, but some idea where you're like bringing a lot of words in, and that's kind of your concept. And then what are the benefits of sharing books with children? Sort of the bigger picture, it provides a sensory stimulating in support of brain development. So it's that bigger idea of like really participating in the growth of somebody by exercising their brain through the experience of reading together. It develops language, which of course is very important, imparts knowledge of the world and how it works. And that sounds kind of like sort of secondary, but I want to bring that maybe a little higher up and be an advocate for that. What we're trying to do as grown-ups and parents and caregivers to young people is to give them a sense of what the world is about, what their worldview might be, and how they feel they will answer the big questions. Where do they come from? Why are they here? Where are they going? These kind of big questions are important, and I want to have that sort of upper level thinking to go beyond the sort of materialist kind of thinking that we're also used to having, but think about bigger, more spiritual ideas of having an understanding about what the world is and what goodness is and where that comes from. Create a joyful and loving connection between babies, toddlers, and their loved ones. So again, that love thing is important, and nurture a love of books and reading. We want to create that habit. So some subject matter that might be worth considering, things like shapes, colors, faces, some basics, animals, feelings, things that go, places, letters or words. And remember, we have the letter book and the number book, so we may not necessarily need another alphabet book or another book on numbers. But of course, I don't want to eliminate that as a category. But that's what I mean by in terms of like thinking about where your book can fit in. Think about Dirt as a product line and what might be a good next fit for them. Counting numbers, people, food, and like we talked about, if you want to think about an exercise of how you can maybe come up with a unique idea, it might be as simple as like take 2 of these things and put them together. So colors and food might make an interesting book, or sounds and animals, feelings and shapes, and shapes have feelings. It might be as simple as that. Like try to get an insight by arranging a couple of things in a really simple but maybe surprising way. So the books that we've been doing, that we've been getting just a lot of successful ideas and a lot of great experiences through the past 3 classes. And some of these I shared and some of these I didn't, but this again, Say What is just a great, simple but elegant, and it's kid-like, but it's also kind of sophisticated enough that that it would be interesting for an adult to have. And it's again about these using typography, using illustration, using color, but then using the words that get expressed. And each person might have their own way of expressing this book or reading this book out loud or adding to it even. And what's interesting when it's a simple book like this, it can also help become not so specific towards one language, and could be in any language. Here's Shape the World, and this is a simple idea in terms of utilizing just kind of geometric shapes, putting them together in the sort of exercise that kind of uses math. This plus this equals this, and shows these kind of building blocks as being these shapes as being core building blocks to all the things that are good and wonderful in the world, from ice cream cones to school buses and fish. And just to do a simple book that consistently goes through and gives a nice variety, uses different colors. You can talk about the colors, the shapes, and the elements there, and you can give a lot for the reader to add into this experience. And then we have another book here that's about feelings, and this is what my idea, my suggestion to like bring 2 things together, feelings and animals, and you put those 2 together and you get this book, or you get this idea that can be this book. And that idea, like, it's not like, oh, feelings and animals have been taken, I can't do that. You can do your own feelings and animals books, which will be, of course, much different than this. So there's a lot of ways of nuancing different things, and this is one way of showing, explaining how we all have different emotions, while also introducing kids to different kinds of animals, and bringing this experience of what it means to be human, good or bad, and bringing it out as part of a story. And then this is about like seeing and spotting things and having kind of this puzzle. So it's like an experience at the local market with this odd little shape. I'm not sure what he's called, but he goes to the market, and the kids can now, where's the apple? Where are the carrots? What color is the apple? And be able to bring your own interactions as a parent or a caregiver, because the words are basic. And it also brings this element of like emotion, like we have a surprised fish, and the other vegetables and fruits had their own different emotions as well. And then ending with this kind of overview puzzle, like where's the sweet potato? Find the peppers. And so that's another example. And then Monster Planet we looked at yesterday as well, which brings together this idea of like actual facts of phenomena in the world, which is like these, not facts, but like real things, like myths about different kinds of cultural monsters or cultural creatures that from around the world, that bring the sort of like, trying to be scary a little bit, but not really, being friendly, but having a little spookiness in it, a little danger, but in a fun, innocent way, and also in a way where a grown-up is going to love to learn about these different mythological creatures from different parts of the world, and kind of better their knowledge base as well. So I think this is a really nice kind of sweet spot of being for kids, but also giving something to the adult reader that they can enjoy as well. And then in that same vein, Speaking in Flowers is similar, where it's very colorful, very positive, but in a way that's not only for kids. It's kind of elegant and whimsical, and there's a little talks about what the meaning of flowers that they have in our cultures or in different cultures. You can see in the bottom there, and it's like little tiny type, because it's really just kind of for the parent or caregiver to learn about flowers and what they mean in the language they speak, in a kind of cool and interesting way. So again, this is that sweet spot that kind of interests me, where we're designing something for kids, but we're also not forgetting the other member of the target market. And then this one I pulled out of the bag yesterday, but it's this before and after idea. And there could be hundreds of these possibly, and this is just one person's version of before and after, not only in the kind of things that they show, but also in the way they choose to illustrate it. And if you wanted to do it before and after your own way, I'd be totally open to that, of course, because I would imagine yours would be different just because it's coming from a different person. But this is beautiful because it doesn't even need words. And like I was saying earlier, a book like this is great because it doesn't matter if you're speaking Spanish or if you're from Asia or if you're just not, you're not literate and you can't read. So it's great to be able to just give somebody something that's blank in terms of words, and they can do the talking, and they can become the voice and the words. And there's a lamp there. You just can't see it. It's like a varnish lamp. Okay. Here's another one. This is actually the one that's in our, what I'll be showing next is the example of the assignment. And this is the result of the research that I'm going to show in the assignment, this breakfast time book. And again, trying to like make it something that's fun and interesting for kids, but also something that young adults, old adults, medium adults are going to love, because it's just kind of about a fun grown-up breakfast. It's not like Cheerios and baby food. It's kind of like an overall fun breakfast experience. And then this book is about taking the idea of colors and taste, or colors and fruit and vegetables and fruits, and calling it Yummy Colors, kind of taking yummy, there's describing something you eat, and colors is something you don't eat. And that kind of makes it a clever idea. So what represents these different colors? So red, and then there's a finding. Can you find the cherry? Can you find the peach or orange? So it's like a little game where you have to point out the elements that they're asking about in the text. So yellow, find the kiwi and the pineapple. And it gives activity and a chance for that hand to come out and for there to be movement and motion. So that's a really successful book. Okay, so I put not just those, but a whole bunch more on our class Google Drive. On our class Google Drive, you'll see this folder called Class Resources. And right now there's just one folder in there, but there'll be more as the class goes on. But right now it's called Board Book Page Through Movies. And in there are like, I can't even count them, there's so many. So this is really important. I want you to use this, to go through them, to watch them, to read them without me talking, and to try to understand the book, so that you have an ability to kind of like learn from the results of your past fellow classmates. So please use this as part of your research process. Okay, so as we talked about in class, part of what makes the design process is that there are specific limitations and directions that you have to follow. And in this case, creating your book is not going to be about you thinking about what size your book is or what kind of special treatments you'll do in printing. It's already predetermined because we have to use on-demand printing, and we have to keep this as affordable as possible. So every book is going to be a 16-page self-cover, which is 5 5/8 by 5 5/8. Now, and with a spine. And a self-cover, what that means is that the cover is the same weight of paper as the inside, as opposed to when there's like a hardcover and then softer pages. And that basically means that page 1 is the cover, 2 and 3 is the first spread, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12, 13, 14, and then 16 is the last page. So that means you're going to have 7 2-page spreads, because that's 14. And then page 1 is the cover and page 16 is the back. So you have 7 spreads to work with, and only 7 spreads. You have to plan your book, not in this assignment, but the next assignment, to fit within the 7 spreads. We're using 4-color process. We're not going to have like special metallic inks, or if we put a mirror on them, we can't put a mirror, we can't drill a hole, we can't stick a feather on there, we can't do any of the stuff that might be really cool to do that I'm all for, but we can't do it with this because we have to produce these in a manufacturing kind of way in a budget. So no die cuts, no fold outs, no accordions, no tricks, just pure spreads, which is nice because it's a limitation that's going to force you to have to make ideas that are smart, that don't require some kind of physical device. Okay, so here's the assignment. for next week, this coming week, Thursday. Basically, I want you to create a presentation deck that showcases research and a concept statement. And I want you to present DIRT and the assignment as seen in the first 3 pages at the top, a cover page, an overview on DIRT, and an explanation of what the assignment overall is, not just today's assignment, but the whole project. I want you to showcase 3 examples of existing baby board books that you find, the second row up here. Do research, look at books online, go to the bookstore and look at these books. Go to like nice little baby bookstores, but maybe they have more boutique kind of books. And I think there's like a kids store on 15th. Near the school, there's a cool little kids store. You should find that and go there. And then put together three case studies, we'll call them, or 3 showcases, and show examples of the books, and then highlight key things that you liked about them that you thought were interesting. And then I want you to put together, this is really essential, like this kind of design inspiration research where you find things that inspire you, you put them together in a mood board, and then you're able to present that and talk about the things that you think are interesting that reflect your ability to create, like illustration styles that reflect what you can do, or something you think you can learn to do that is ambitious without being unrealistic, that you're not going to be able to do it. So like I talked about in class, I want everyone to push themselves, but I also want you to make sure you have the guardrails up so you're not making some crazy idea that's going to take way too long and you're bit off more than you can chew. And I'll be there to try to keep that from happening too when we discuss it. Because what this meeting is going to be, it's going to be that you presenting your research, you're presenting a written idea, and not having me respond to any design at this stage. That comes next. But besides the design inspiration with illustration, also do design inspiration, as we can see here, using typography and color, and any other kind of things, that design elements that will inform how you design your book. And then the last page here, the second last page, are 2 options of ideas, like just statements. One says global traditional festivals, and the other says cakes and desserts. And those are the 2 kind of general ideas they had in mind. But I'll show you more here. So here's a full presentation example of what you should be doing. Like we talked about, make sure you create a presentation template format that is super simple, that's nicely designed, that inspires confidence, that makes me or whoever you show in the future feel that you have a solid aesthetic, you're understanding design as being a tool as well as an aesthetic expression. You're not going over the top, showcasing your wacky personality. You're keeping it boring in a beautiful way. And you're allowing for your presentation to showcase the information in the best way. You're going to have a cover sheet. You're going to talk about who DIRT is and explaining the mission of the brand. You're going to talk about this assignment overall and write out exactly what it is. Even if you literally take the text from here and here, like word for word, that's fine with me. Be a pirate, pillage. And then you're going to come up with 3 different books as case studies that are examples of things that inspire you, that show approaches that you can point to and say, like, I really like the idea of like big, bold, blocky letters with just a little bit of color differences, or how minimal this illustration style is, things that you can like point at and say that they're going to influence your way of creating your book. And do that 3 times. And then from there, build this idea of like, what can I do in terms of illustration styles, approaches, techniques, expressions, build a solid professional mood board that will help me and others in the class understand what it is you're trying to do. Do that with typography and color and form. And then the key part is just to create a statement. And we saw the breakfast book a little earlier, and it says breakfast foods is a fun and easy way for kids to learn about the exciting world of breakfast foods, the most important meal of the day. With this book, infants and toddlers begin to learn about the bright colors and fun shapes that breakfast foods come in. So basically, she's saying the colors and the shapes and the elements that make those illustrations are important. On the adult side, it's like cool illustrations of waffles. So it's kind of like trying to get both things out of it. They can start to become familiar with the croissant unique shape or contrasting colors of eggs using simplified, somewhat flat but textured style illustrations. Breakfast foods will illustrate basic breakfast foods and colors that are associated with them. Breakfast foods can continue as a series into lunch foods and dinner foods. So great, it tells a great sort of pitch about what this concept is about, and it also shows that it has legs. It could expand even further with more versions of the same idea in different ways. And then at the very end, very important, always say thank you when you're done with something. Always be grateful and always express that great gratitude towards whoever you're talking to. So we always will end our presentations from here on forever with a thank you page. Okay, so that's it. In general, this has been a little too long already. I've gotten all this text is on Canvas for you to read at your leisure, or to read slowly and understand what it is you're needing to do. And then I will be here at the other end of my email or the other end of Slack, ready to respond to you as needed. So reach out if you have questions, and but if not, be ready to present on Thursday and to go through everyone will share their concepts together in class, and then we'll talk about the next steps from there. Great. Have a great new next week, and I'll see you on Thursday night. Thanks, everyone.